Prologue. Few tasks that I have been commanded by obedience to undertake have been as difficult as this one. How do I write about matters of prayer? God has blessed me with neither the spiritual skillfulness nor the desire for it. Plus, for the past 3 months, I have been suffering from such a clattering and fragility in my head that I have a hard time even focusing on mundane business matters. But I have found that whenever I have surrendered in obedience, impossible things have become simple. While my physical nature rebels against the very prospect of a new book, I willingly take it on. I must admit, though, I cannot see how the Beloved, or God, thinks I will pull this off. He has not made me strong enough to prevent me from trembling with aversion when I am confronted with this continuous stream of health problems, along with a multitude of demanding duties. May He who helped me with even more difficult things than this one help me now. Into His mercy I deliver my trust. The truth is, I do not think I have much to say that I have not already said in other books. I have been commanded to write. In fact, I am afraid I will just repeat myself. I feel like one of those birds they teach to speak who knows nothing except what it hears and then proceeds to repeat those things over and over again. If the Beloved wants me to say something new, He will reveal it to me. Otherwise, He will be pleased to help me remember things I have said in the past. My memory is getting so poor that I would be thrilled if I could recapture a few of the thoughts people have considered to be well said in the past so that they are not lost. Even if I do not remember a thing and I get just exhausted and my head hurts worse, even if no one finds anything I say to be of any use, I will be better for having surrendered in obedience. And so today, on this feast day of the Most Blessed Trinity in the year 1577, in this Carmelite convent of St. Joseph's in Toledo, I begin to fulfill my agreement. In all that I say, I submit to the wise ones who ordered me to write this. If I happen to say something that is not in alignment with that what the Mother Church holds sacred, you can sure that it will be through ignorance and not through malice. Know that by the goodness of God I ever am, have been, and shall be loyal to her. My God be forever blessed and glorified. Amen. The man who ordered me to write this has suggested that the nuns in these convents of Our Lady of Mount Carmel could use a little assistance with certain questions that they have about prayer. It seemed to him that women best understand the language spoken between women. He also thought that in light of their love for me, these nuns might pay special attention to what I have to say to them. So it's important that I try to come up with something here and that I express it directly and clearly. It is ridiculous, of course, to think that what I would say could be of use to anyone else. But if these words inspire even one of my friends to praise God a little more, He will be granting me a great boon. The Beloved knows I am not interested in anything else. If I do manage to say something clearly, they will understand that it does not come from me. If they are mistaken about this, it will be because they are as ignorant as I am inept. Only God in His mercy gives such things to us. First dwelling. Chapter 1. Today, while I was beseeching the Beloved to speak through me, since I couldn't think of anything to say and had no idea how to begin to fulfill this particular vow of obedience, I had a vision that I will share with you now as a foundation we can build on. It came to me that the soul is like a castle made exclusively of diamond or some other very clear crystal. In this castle are a multitude of dwellings, just as in heaven there are many mansions. If we muse on this deeply, friends, we will see that the soul of a righteous person is none other than a garden in which the Beloved takes great delight. What do you think a place might be like that such a king, so powerful and wise, so pure and filled with all good things, would find so delightful? I myself can come up with nothing as magnificent as the beauty and amplitude of a soul. Our intellects, no matter how sharp, can no more grasp this than they can comprehend God. It is said, though, that He created us in His own image. If that is true, which it is, there is no point wearing ourselves out trying to fathom the great beauty of this castle with our mere minds. Even though the castle is a created thing, There is a vast difference between creator and creature. So, the fact that the soul is made in God's image means that it is impossible for us to understand her sublime dignity and loveliness. What a shame that, through our own unconsciousness, we do not know ourselves. Wouldn't a person look foolish, friends, if you asked him who he was and he didn't know, had no idea who his father or mother were or what country he came from? If this seems stupid to you, know that our own stupidity is incomparably greater when we do not strive to know who we are. What transcends the body? We have heard that we have souls, and our faith compels us to believe that it is true, but we rarely consider the soul's excellent qualities or who it is that dwells within her or how precious she really is. And so we don't bother to tend her beauty. All our attention is focused on the rough matrix of the diamond, the outer walls of the castle, which are none other than these bodies of ours. Remember, this castle has many dwellings, some above, some below, others to either side. At the center is the most important dwelling of them, all where the most secret things unfold between the soul and her beloved. Hold this castle comparison in your mind. Maybe God will let it reveal to you a glimpse of the many different blessings that, as far as I have understood, He is happy to give to the souls. The truth is, the blessings are so abundant no one could understand them all, especially someone as dense as I am. If you simply know that these things are possible, it will be a great consolation when they happen to you. Even if they do not, it will console you simply to praise God's great goodness. It doesn't do any harm to reflect on heavenly bounty and on the joy that the Blessed One feels, does it? In fact, it inspires us to strive for those delights ourselves. Neither does it harm us to find out that in the very midst of our exile, such a great God chooses to associate with such wretched worms like ourselves. Seeing this, how could we do anything but love Him for His perfect compassion and boundless mercy? This is what happened, for instance, with St. Paul and the Magdalene. You could say that these blessings seem to be impossible and that it's not nice to upset the weak with false hope. But there is less to lose when we risk the chance that the weak ones might not believe in such holy things than there is when we hold back what we know from those who would most benefit from God's gifts. These are the souls who would be delighted by such gifts and would be awakened to an even greater love of the one who bestows them, the one whose power and glory are so vast. Anyone who does not believe in these blessings will not experience them. God appreciates it when we do not put limits on His works. And so, friends, try to never doubt the Beloved, even if He does not lead you by this path. How do we get into our beautiful, delightful castle after all? It must seem like I am talking nonsense. If this castle is the soul, you obviously cannot enter it because it is inside yourself. It would be absurd to suggest that someone go into a room she is already in. But remember, there are many different ways to be in a place. Many souls hang around the outer courtyard where the guards are. They are not interested in getting inside the castle. They have no idea of what lies within this precious place, or who lives in there, or how many rooms there are. You know how some books on prayer recommend that you enter within yourself. That's exactly what I'm talking about here. Not long ago, a very wise man told me that souls who do not practice prayer are like people whose limbs are paralyzed. Even though they have hands and feet, they cannot command them. And so there are souls so caught up in worldly matters that there is no hope for their recovery. They seem to be incapable of entering within themselves. These are souls so used to dealing with the nasty creatures that inhabit the outer walls of the castle that they have become almost like them. Even though they are naturally endowed with the power to commune with the Beloved Himself, there is no remedy for them. Unless these souls strive to heal their profound misery, they will be turned into pillars of salt, just like Lot's wife was changed when she looked back. It seems to me that the entry door to this castle is prayer and meditation. I do not mean just silent contemplation. When vocal prayer is accompanied by genuine reflection, it counts as true prayer. But if someone prays without awareness of who she is talking to, what is she asking? Who is doing the asking and who is being asked? I do not consider it prayer, no matter how much her lips are moving. Even if she cannot consistently sustain this awareness, it does not matter, as long as she is truly reflective some of the time. If she gets into the habit of addressing the Magnificent One as if he were her servant, never questioning the manner in which she is expressing herself, merely letting whatever pops into her head fall out of her mouth, spilling words she has learned by simple repetition, she is not praying. Please, beloved, let no lover of God pray this way, at least among you, my friends. I beg you not to speak to God like that. The practice we have cultivated around here of focusing on interior things is a good safeguard against falling into such beastly ways. I do not have a lot to say to these broken souls, unless the Beloved himself comes and commands them to rise up as he did to the man who lay for 30 years beside the pool. They are in big trouble. I am reaching out to the souls whose ultimately will enter the castle. Even if they are somewhat absorbed in the world, their intentions are good. Every once in a while, they do not try to put themselves in God's hands and reflect on who they are, even if they do not linger in their meditations. During the course of a month, these souls might pray a few times, but their minds are full of 1,000 things they are still attached to. Where their treasure lies, says Christ, there also goes their heart. Every once in a while, though, they break free from these things and realize they are not going the right way to get to the castle's front door. At last, they arrive. They enter the first, lower rooms, but so many reptiles have slipped in with them that they cannot even see the beauty of the castle or find any solace in it. Still, they have done very well to have gotten in at all. Chapter 2. Do you understand what would happen to this beautiful shining castle, this pearl of the East, this tree of life planted in the living waters of life itself, if the soul were to fall into grave error? No darkness is deeper than this. No blackness is more opaque. Although the same sun that has given the soul all her brilliance and beauty still shines at her center, it is as if the soul herself is no longer there to experience it. The soul is innately as capable of sharing this divine light as a crystal is in reflecting the radiance of the sun. Nothing much helps a soul in the state of grave error. Any good works she may try to do are fruitless. She will gain no glory through them. If virtue is a true virtue, its source is a God. A soul in grave error has separated herself from God, and so her deeds are worthless. After all, a person who has fallen into grave error is interested in pleasing the spirit of evil, not God, and so the poor soul becomes the essence of darkness itself. I know a certain person to whom God wanted to demonstrate what happens when a soul falls into great error. This same person now believes that if only people really understood this, they would go to great lengths to avoid such occasions. May you, friends, share in this person's ardent desire for understanding. May the Beloved give you, as he has given her, the urge to pray fervently for other souls who are in this state, who have become sheer darkness and whose deeds are just as dark. All streams flowing forth from a clear spring are also clear. So it is with the soul in grace. Planted like a tree in the spring of life, her deeds delight both the human and the divine. If it were not for this spring sustaining the tree and keeping it from drying up, there would be no cool shade, no sweet fruit. If the soul purposely pulls up from her roots from the source and plants herself where the waters are black and smelly, nothing but misery and filth will flow forth from her. This fountainhead that shines like the sun from the center of the soul never loses its radiance. It is ever present within the soul, and nothing can diminish its beauty. But obviously, if we were to drape a black cloth over a crystal sitting in the sunshine, no matter how brightly the sun shines, it will have no effect on the shrouded jewel. O souls set free by the blood of Christ, learn to understand yourselves. Have compassion for yourselves. With self-awareness, how could you not strive to lift the black veil that darkens the crystal of your soul? If your life were to end right now, you would never again be given to enjoy this light. Oh Jesus, it is so sad to see a soul separated from this light. What a wretched state the chambers of the castle have fallen into. How disturbed are the faculties of sense and reason that inhabit them. These are the servants of the place. They have grown blind and badly behaved. But if a tree is planted in the spirit of evil, what other kind of fruit could it possibly bear? I once heard a wise man say that it is not the things that a soul in grave error did, but rather what she did not do. May God in his mercy deliver us from such wickedness. Nothing in this life deserves the name evil but this, which carries everlasting negativity on its wake. We must live alert to unconsciousness, friends, and pray to God to protect us against it. If he does not guard our city, then all our work is in vain. We are vanity itself. That woman I mentioned said that she received two blessings from the gift the beloved gave her. One blessing was an intense reluctance to offend God. Having learned the perils of unconsciousness, she begged him endlessly not to let her fall. The other blessing was that she discovered a mirror for humility inside herself, which reflected the truth that none of our good works has its source in ourselves, but flow instead from the sacred spring where the tree that is the soul is planted, and in the divine sun gives that warmth to everything we do. She said this because it became so clear to her that whenever she did anything good or observed a good thing done, she immediately recalled the source and understood that without it, we are powerless. And so she would begin to spontaneously praise God, and she never gave a second thought to herself. If we come away with these two blessings, friends, then neither the time you have spent in reading this, nor I in the time I've been writing it, have been wasted. Men of learning seem to get theology without much effort, but we women need to take it all in slowly and muse on it. We need to feel it. And so, if it be God's will, perhaps a few metaphors will capture our attention and bring some understanding. These inner teachings are so obscure to the mind. Someone with as little learning as I have will end up saying countless superfluous and even irrelevant things in order to make a single meaningful point. Please have patience with me, dear reader, as I must cultivate patience with myself in writing of things I almost know nothing about. Because really, sometimes I grab pen and paper like an utter fool. I have no idea whatsoever how I'm going to begin and what I'm going to say. I fully understand how important it is for me to do my best to try to impart something useful to you about the inner life. We are always hearing about what a good thing prayer is, and we seekers are obligated to engage in it for so many hours a day. But all we are told is what we ourselves are supposed to do. What about the work the beloved does inside us? The supernatural work. Nobody explains that part. It will be comforting to ponder the celestial palace within ourselves as we explore and explain the path of prayer. So few mortals understand this sacred place, although many pass through it. The beloved may have given me some clarity about certain things I have written about in the past, but there are other more difficult matters I have not really begun to understand until now. The trouble is that, because of my own limitations, I cannot get to these mysteries without first going over what is already well known. Let's get back to the mansion of many dwellings. Don't picture these dwellings as arranged in a row, one after the other. Instead, turn your eyes to the center, which is the part of the palace where the king lives. Imagine a palmetto fruit. Layer upon layer must be peeled away to reach the tasty part in the middle. So it is with the interior castle. Many rooms surround the central chamber. Always visualize your soul as vast, spacious, and plentiful. This amplitude is impossible to exaggerate. The soul's capacity far transcends our imagining. The sun at the center of this palace radiates to every part. It is very important for any soul who practices prayer, whether a little or a lot, not to limit herself or hold herself back in designated corners. Since God has given her such dignity, let her roam freely through all the dwellings, above, below, and to each side. She must not feel compelled to linger too long in any one place, unless, of course, it is the dwelling of self knowledge. How necessary this abode is, even for those whom the Beloved has drawn into the same chamber where he himself abides. No matter how high a state the soul attains, she can never neglect knowing herself, even if she wanted to. Humility is always busy working, like a bee making honey in its hive. Without humility, all is lost. Remember, though, the bee continually goes out to gather more nectar from the flowers, and so the soul must fly sometimes from knowledge of herself to reflect on the majesty and greatness of her God. Aloft, she will recognize her own lowliness more clearly than if she were to only ponder her own nature. Plus, she will be freer from the serpents that invade those first chambers of self knowledge. Even though it is by the grace of God that the soul practices knowing herself, you can, as the saying goes, have too much of a good thing. Believe me, reflecting on the virtue of God will carry us to much greater heights than if we were to tie ourselves down to our own little land of misery. I am not sure I have explained this well. Self knowledge is so important that I do not care how high you are raised up to the heavens. I never want to cease cultivating it. As long as we are on this earth, there is nothing more essential than humility. Enter the room of self knowledge first instead of floating off to the other places. This is the path, traveling along a safe and level road. Who needs wings to fly? Let's make the best possible use of our feet first and learn to know ourselves. And yet it seems to me that we will never know ourselves unless we seek to know God. Glimpsing His greatness, we recognize our own powerlessness. Gazing upon His purity, we notice that we are impure. Pondering His humility, we see how far from humble we are. What do we gain by this shift in perspective? A couple of things. First, it is clear that white seems much brighter against black, and the black appears much darker set against the white. Also, when we turn away from our small selves and toward God, both our understanding and our will become more sublime and more inclined to embrace all that is good. We would do ourselves a great disservice if we never endeavored to rise above the mud of our personalized misery. Remember how dark and noxious are the streams that flow from the soul in grave error. It's a little bit like that. If we are perpetually stuck in our own acre of tribulation, our stream will never flow free from the mire of fear and faint heartedness. Are they looking at me or not? We would be wondering. Will everything go wrong for me if I take this path? What's a wretched little person like me doing engaging in something as lofty as prayer? Won't I be perceived as superior if I don't follow the road everyone else is on? Extremes are no good, we would reason, even extremes in virtue. And, since I'm such a sinner, my fall would be even more catastrophic. Besides, I doubt I'd make any progress anyway, and I'm likely just to cause trouble to good people. Someone like me doesn't need to make herself into anything special. Oh, God help me, friends. How many souls has the spirit of evil ruined this way? They confuse these fears with humility. These fears arise from not knowing ourselves. Fear distorts knowledge of self. What we should really be afraid of is obsessing over ourselves and never getting free of ourselves. And so I say, my friends, let us set our eyes on Christ, our good, and on His saints. That is where we will learn true humility. Then our understanding will be enhanced. Then self knowledge will not make us timid and cowardly. Even though this is the only first dwelling of the interior castle, it is so rich and precious that the souls can slip away from the serpents that slither in there and cannot help but advance. The spirit of evil uses many nasty tricks to keep souls from knowing themselves and understanding their own paths. I speak from experience when I warn you about this first dwelling. There aren't just a few rooms, there are millions. There are many ways for the soul, with all the best intentions, to get into trouble. But the intentions of the spirit of evil are always bad, and so in each room legions of evil spirits have been set up to beat back souls who try to pass from one room to the next. The poor souls who do not know about this fall for 1,000 deceptions. The farther they travel away from the spirit of evil and the nearer they approach the innermost dwelling of the beloved, the less likely they are to be tricked. But souls in these first rooms are still attached to the world, still engulfed by their own pleasures and ambitions. The faculties of sense and reason, which God gave to the soul to be free of service to her, may not be strong enough to combat certain forces. Some souls could be easily conquered here, even though they may do good works and be motivated by a sincere desire not to offend the beloved. Those who find themselves in this state should turn toward His Majesty as often as possible. They should call upon the Blessed Mother and all the saints to intercede on their behalf, since the servants of their own nature lack the power to defend them. The truth is, it is necessary at every single stage to draw what we need from God. May the Beloved in His mercy give us strength. Amen. How miserable this life can be. I've gone on, here and elsewhere, about the ways we do damage to ourselves by failing to cultivate humility and self awareness. Enough. Just remember, it is your most important task. Please God, may I have said something of benefit by now. You will probably notice that the light from the king's innermost chamber seems to barely reach these first outer rooms. They are not black, as they are when the soul is darkened by a state of grave error, but the soul herself is prevented from seeing the light. Oh, I wish I knew how to explain myself. There is nothing wrong with this dwelling. It's just that those nasty creatures like serpents and vipers, poisonous reptiles, they creep into the soul and do not let her perceive the radiance. It is as if a person were to go into a room filled with sunshine, but she had dirt in her eyes and could hardly open them. This dwelling is actually bright, but the soul cannot appreciate it because these wild beasts here make her close her eyes to everything but them. It is not that the soul is in a wicked state. It is that she is still so immersed in these things of the world, still so caught up in possessions or honor or business affairs, that even though she may long to gaze upon the beauty of the interior castle, all these attachments distract her from doing so. She cannot seem to extricate herself from so many entanglements, but anyone who wishes to move ahead on the path must try to give up unnecessary objects and preoccupations. If you want to reach the innermost chamber, there is your only hope. Start now. Even if you have already entered the castle, you are still in danger. Among all those venomous creatures, you cannot avoid being bitten at some point. What about the people like us, friends, who have already freed ourselves from worldly attachments? What if we have already succeeded in entering deep into the secret dwellings within the castle of our souls, and then, through our own fault, turned back toward chaos? Because of our imperfections, many of us who have been blessed by God fall back into a wretched state. We may live free from certain external involvements, but may God please grant us internal freedom as well. Guard yourselves, my friends, against matters beyond your control. Remember that evil spirits battle us throughout the kingdom. It is true that in some areas our faculties serve as our protectors and are so strong they're strong enough to fight for our souls. But sometimes the spirit of evil disguises itself as an angel of light to deceive us. We cannot be too careful. If we do not remain conscious, the spirit of evil will sneak in and, like silent sandpaper, will gradually cause damage in all kinds of insidious little ways we may not even realize until it's too late. For example, say the spirit of evil compels a certain sister to do endless penance. The only time she is at peace is when she is tormenting herself. Maybe the initial impulse towards self mortification is pure, but it grows distorted. If her spiritual teacher has instructed that no one involve herself in those kinds of austerities without guidance, but the sister believes she knows better and so engages secretly in such extremes anyway, compromising her health so that she becomes incapable of engaging in spiritual practice, then where has the seemingly good led her? Where did it bring her to? Maybe another sister suffers from a zeal for absolute perfection. Fundamentally, this is a fine thing, but it could lead her to see that every little fault in her friends as some serious transgression. She would be constantly on the lookout for other people's shortcomings and would be running to the spiritual guide to inform them at every opportunity. This zeal could blind her to her own faults and alienate her friends who, resentful of her tendency to criticize, may not appreciate that it arose from a worthy impulse towards perfection. Do not underestimate the spirit of evil here. Its aim is to undermine charity and cool the love the friends have for one another. This could cause serious harm. Let's understand, my friends, that true perfection means loving God and loving our neighbor. The more perfectly we keep these two commandments, the closer to perfection we will become. All spiritual rules are nothing but means toward an end of spiritual love. Forget about reckless zeal, it can do harm. Let each one of us look to herself. I do not want you to ever forget how important is the love between us. If you are going around looking at other people's faults, you might mistake insignificant things for drastic imperfections. This not only ruins your own serenity, but unnecessarily disturbs the other people's peace of mind. Perfection at what price? The spirit of evil might even tempt our spiritual guides, which is all the more dangerous. Such a situation requires discretion. If the teacher herself breaks important spiritual rules, the kindest thing would be to call upon someone of a higher station and prevail upon them to gently intervene. The same is true for one of the friends. Failing to deal with a problem out of fear of yielding to a negative temptation may be in itself yielding to a negative temptation. Still, it is important to remember that the spirit of evil has all kinds of tricks to deceive us. Cultivating the habit of gossip is one of them. Don't talk about each other's faults, but behind each other's backs. For the greatest benefit, discuss these matters face to face. Around here, glory be to God, we don't have much opportunity for the harmful chatter since we keep almost continually silent, but it is good to stay conscious of this tendency.